Girls. Okay, girls, I hope you are ready with the book now. So let us start the poem A Thing of Beauty by John Keats. Before we start this poem, let us look about the poet which is given in the book itself, right? So about the poet, John Keats, 1795 to 1821, was a British romantic poet. Although trained to be a surgeon, Keats decided to devote himself wholly to poetry. Keats' secret, his power to sway and delight the readers, lies primarily in his gift for perceiving the world and leaving his moods and aspirations in terms of language. The following poem is an excerpt from his poem Endymion, a poetic romance. Now, this poem is based on a Greek legend in which Endymion, a beautiful young shepherd and poet who lived in Mount Latmos, had a vision of Cynthia, the moon goddesses. The enchanted youth resolved to seek her out and so wandered away through the forest and down under the sea. So here it says that John Keats belonged to a romanticism era. Right. Now, what happened is like in the history of English literature, there was a different era. Right. And John Keats belonged to a romanticism era. Now, in romanticism era, what happened is like the poets like John Keats, P.B. Shelley, William Wordsworth, Byron, right? All these poets, they belong to a romanticism era. But, romanticism era was not the love, not the romance between the opposite sex, right? It was like, the romance towards nature. Okay, if you have noticed, the poets like John Keats, right, Byron, Shelley, William Wordsworth, they have written their work, they have written their poem basically based on the beauty of the nature, right? So here also, John Keats, who belonged to a romanticism era, had written his work, right? This poem also the poet talks about the beauty of the nature in this poem, right? Now, what happened is like this poem is just a small excerpt taken out from the long poem Endymion, a poetic romance, which was written by John Keats himself, right? Now, in this poem, Endymion poem, what has happened is, there was it is based on a Greek legend, is what is said in the book, right? So in this poem, there was an Endymion, right? And Endymion was who? He was a young shepherd and a poet, right? Who lived on Mount Latmos. So one day what happened is this Endymion had a vision of Cynthia. Now who Cynthia is, right? Cynthia is a moon goddess, right? This is based all in the Greek legend. And what happened is this Endymion, when he had a vision of Cynthia, the moon goddesses, right, he was enchanted by the beauty of the goddesses, moon. Right. He was so mesmerized by the beauty of moon goddesses. So he resolved himself to look for her out. Okay. He goes out to see moon goddesses or to find moon goddesses. So when he goes to look for moon goddesses, he wanders, right? He travels through the forest and down under the sea. Right. So when Endymion was traveling through the forest, he saw, right? He visualizes, he realizes that the nature is so beautiful, right? It's not just beautiful, but here Endymion realizes that the nature is a healer, that the nature is a nurturer to the human being. Okay, and that is what the poet John Keats is trying to talk about in this poem. He talks about the beauty of the nature, right? He talks about the nature as a gift to the human being. Okay, so let's see what it is given in the poem. So I'll begin with the poem. You please look at the book carefully. All right, please go through the book, through the line carefully. So let's begin. A thing of beauty is a joy forever. Its loveliness increases. See, the lines are very simple. It says a thing of beauty is what? Is a joy forever. It's a perpetual joy. Its loveliness increases, right? The beauty of the nature increases day by day. It will never pass into nothingness. So it will never fade into nothingness. Right? See the line once again. A thing of beauty is what? A thing of beauty is a joy forever. Its loveliness increases and it will never fade into nothingness. Right? But will keep a bower quiet for us. Right? That thing of beauty will keep a bower quiet for us. So, keep here, it means that the beauty of the nature gives us peace, it gives us shelter, and it leads us to a beautiful place, right? Bower quiet means a beautiful place, right? I'll repeat that line once again. It says, the poet says that the thing of beauty is a perpetual joy. Its loveliness increases day by day. It will never fade into nothingness, but it will give us peace and shelter and lead us to a beautiful place. All right? And a sleep full of sweet dreams and health and quiet breathing. Now look at that line, right? It says, first, it says that the beauty of the nature, a thing of beauty, gives us peace, it leads us to a beautiful place, and it will give us sleep full of sweet dreams. Right? It will give us good health and quiet breathing. Quiet means effortless breathing. Right? Effortless, peaceful breathing. Therefore, now this is another thing which is very important in this poem. Therefore, on every morrow are we rethering. Right? It says, look at it. Hey, therefore, on every morrow is every morning. Right? When we are rethering means when we are encircled with all the ill wills. Right? Sometimes what happens is, like, if you have practically experienced yourself also, I guess, right? When we wake up in the morning, sometimes, some bad feeling comes to us. Some ill feeling, ill will comes to us. Right? And that is what the poet is trying to say every morning. Right? When we are encircled with all those bad feelings, with all those ill feelings. Right? What happens? A flowery band to bind us to the earth. See there, right? First it says, on every morning when we are encircled, when we are afflicted by the ill will, right? There is something in the nature. What is there? There is a flowery band. Flowery band means there is a narrow strip which unite us to the earth. And that is what? That is the beauty of the nature. Clear? Spite of despondence, right? I think you need to note this in your copy, right? It says, rethering, every morning when we are encircled, there is something there is a very narrow stripe which unite us with the earth. And that narrow stripe is what? A beauty of the nature. Then the next says, spite of despondence of the inhuman dirt, right? Now it says, despondence means disappointment, right? Inhuman dirt means, dirt means the quality, and inhuman is like lacking the human qualities. Now, if I ask you, what are the human qualities? What would you say? What would you say? The human qualities are, kindness, love, all the moral values, the love, selflessly working for others, helping other, being kind, respecting. All those things are the human qualities, right? So here the poet says, right, in spite of disappointment, first, in spite of disappointment. Second, in spite of the inhuman dirt, right? Inhuman dirt is like, here the poet says that the human, when they lack the human qualities, right? The qualities of becoming human. Okay, inhuman dirt is lacking the qualities of human, or let's say becoming inhuman, or losing the quality of humanity. Let's talk about that, right? Then next point, of noble natures, right? Noble natures means the inborn characters, right? The inborn characters of human. Of the gloomy days. Gloomy days means the days of sadness. You can just write the meaning. I'll explain once again, right? First, the poet talks about the disappointment. Second, he talks about lacking the human quality. Third, he talks about lacking the noble natures. Noble natures means the inborn characters. And then fourth, he talks about the gloomy days, the sad days. Then fifth, he talks about of all the unhealthy and over darkened ways. Unhealthy and over darkened means the evil ways, right? Just note down the point. Now, this 4 lines, right? Look at the line. Spite of disappointments of the inhuman dearth, of noble nature, of the gloomy days, of all the unhealthy and over darkened ways, made for our searching means which we are looking for ourselves, or let's say which we made it ourselves, right? Now, here, look from the beginning, okay? The poet says that, right, first he talked about a thing of beauty, which is what? Which is a perpetual joy. Its loveliness increases. It will never fade into nothingness, right? But instead of that, this thing of beauty gives us peace, gives us shelter, gives us sleep full of sweet dream, and gives us effortless breathing, right? He talked all about the positive things. Now let's move about the other thing, right? Then the poet says, therefore, on every morning when we are encircled with the ill wills, right, there is a narrow stripe which bind us, which unite us to the earth. And that narrow stripe is what? It is the beauty of the nature, right? Now, not only that ill will, which we are encircled every morning, he talks about the disappointment which we face, right? The disappointment, the ill will, the encircled, right? The inhuman dearth, let's say, right? He talks about the disappointment which we face. He talks about the inhuman dearth, right? When we lack those human qualities. He talks about all the noble natures, right? Now, let's say when we are disappointed, when we lack the human qualities, right? When we lack the inborn qualities, okay? And then when we are, the days come when we are very sad, the gloomy days, right? Of all the unhealthy and over darkened ways, right? When, those evil ways come to us, evil thought comes to us, right? When those all negative things, right? When all those negative things comes to us. But he says, made for our searching means, we land up into doing bad things. We are encircled with the evil ways. We lose the human qualities. Why? Because of our own work, right? When we do not work in a right way, when we work in a negative way, all the negativity comes to us, right? Then that is what the poet is trying to say. Made for our searching means which we made ourselves, right? So when all this negativity comes, right, when we are encircled with all the negativity, yes, in spite of all these things, some shape of beauty moves away the pall, right? Pall, pall means, the covering of evilness, right? Evil, the protection of evilness, let's say. Okay, the covering of evilness. So all these evil things, right? Disappointment, gloomy days, over darkened ways, losing inhuman qualities, all these things are evilness, right? So when all these things happens to us, there is some shape of beauty which moves away all the covering of evilness. Did you understand? Which moves away all the cover of the evilness, which moves away the pall from our dark spirit. Okay? Of course, when, all this evilness comes to us, the spirit, our soul itself becomes very dark. Right? When negativity is encircled to us, all the time we tend to do bad things, we tend to do evil to others. Those are what? Those are all negativity. And our soul and our spirit itself becomes very dark. Right? So this covering of evilness, this dark spirit is all moved away by the shape of the beauty. Clear? Now, what are the things of beauty is here the poet talks. See, such as the sun, the moon, trees old and young, sprouting a shady boon. Boon means blessings, right? For simple ship. Right, till there, see, here the poet talks about the beauty of the nature. The beauty of the nature are the sun, the moon, trees old and young, sprouting means developing, Right, this tree is old and young. They're developing to become what? To become a shady blessing for all the simple ship. Ship does not mean the mere outer. Okay, ship here, it means the human, for the simple human. Okay, I hope you understood, right? So, as in the at the beginning of the poem itself, I said that the poet talks about nature, the beauty of the nature, not just the beauty of the nature. The poet talks about that nature is a nurturer, is a mother, is a guide, and is a blessing to the human being. Okay, so this line clearly says that this beauty of the nature is blessing for the simple human beings. All right. Now, adding to the beauty of the nature, and such are daffodils, the flower, with the green world they live in. Right. Now, here, imagine the green forest, right? Green forest where the daffodils are nicely, growing. It makes so beautiful, the forest, right? Imagine that beautiful place. Such are daffodil flowers with the green world they live in. And clear reels. Reels is the stream which comes from the mountain, right? Transparent. Clear is transparent. Imagine the transparent, nice stream flowing downwards, eh? That for themselves a cooling covert make, right? Covered, cooling covert means a shelter. Okay. So here the poet talks about the daffodil, which is beautifully growing in the green forest. He talks about the transparent streams which falls down and becomes a cool shelter for the human beings, right? Against the hot season, right? And mid-forest brake, rich with a sprinkling of fair musk rose bloom. Now here, the poet talks about mid-forest, right? Here, the brake, look at the word brake, B-R-A-K-E means thick, right? So here the poet talks about, right? Imagine there's in the middle of the forest, in the middle of the thick forest, rich with the sprinkling of fair musk rose bloom, right? Imagine there is a thick forest, and in that thick forest, there is, beautiful musk rose is blooming, right? Rose is all sprinkled, when sprinkled means, when we sprinkle all the peppers and all the, it is scattered, it's sprinkled. So imagine exactly like that. In a thick forest, red rose are like blooming, and it seems as if it is sprinkled in that forest, right? That beauty. Now, another important, such too is the grandeur of the dooms we have imagined for the mighty dead. Now, this two lines, right? First, before these two lines, the poet has talked about all the beauty of the nature. He said that, the beauty of the nature as the sun, the moon, trees young and old sprouting to become a shady bloom for all the simple human. And he talked about the daffodil flower which grows in the middle of the forest nicely, right? Not only that, in the middle of the forest, he talks about the beautiful red rose blooming as if it is sprinkled in the forest, okay? He talks about the transparent rill which gives us a shed in a very hot season, right? Now, he talks about the beauty of the nature in such a way, right? In such a way that we here we need to imagine the grandeurs. Look at the word. And such too is the grandeur. Grandeur here means magnificence, okay, of the dooms. You know what dooms is? The ruins, the destroys, eh? We have imagined for the mighty dead, right? Now here, in this two line, right, it talks about, we have read, we have heard about our ancestors or about the mighty people who have died for the country or who have sacrificed their life for the goodness of a human being, right? So when we have heard or when we have read about such people, the historical figure who sacrificed or who fought for the people, we think that those people are the mightiest one. We think that they are the great people. But here the poet says that, of course those people are mighty. Of course those people are magnificent. But more magnificent, more grandeur, more mighty is what? The beauty of the nature. It's just a comparison done. Okay. Yes. when we talk about the ancestors, when we talk about the historical figure who sacrificed for the country, who were the bravest, we might think like that. No, they are mighty, they might be bravest, but braver than those mighty people, those dead people, right? Mightier than those dead people, okay? Grandeur than those dead people are the beauty of the nature, right? Then the next thing he says, all lovely tales that we have heard or read. Now, earlier than this line, the poet talks about the mighty dead, right? He says that the beauty of the nature is more magnificent, more mightier than those historical figures. Now he talks about the lovely stories. Yes, of course, we have read, we have heard about the lovely stories, right? But those lovely stories, let's say the thing of beauty is more lovelier than that stories. Okay? I hope it is clear to you now, right? Then the last two line, concluding line. An endless fountain of immortal drink pouring onto us from the heavens brink. Right? So here again the poet talks about nature as a blessing. Right? He says that the beauty of the nature is an endless fountain. Right? Endless fountain of immortal drink. I hope you know what immortal is. Right? Endless fountain of immortal drink, which is pouring, which is flowing onto us from the heavens brink. Brink means corner, right? Here, the concluding portion says that, from the corner, from the edge of the heaven, okay, from the corner of the heaven, this thing of beauty is what? It is an endless fountain which is pouring unto us, which is flowing onto us. It is an endless fountain of immortal drink which is pouring onto us and is a blessing to the human being. Clear? So this is the end of the poem. So I'll just explain it in a brief, right? At first, the poet talks about what? A thing of beauty, which is a joy forever. Okay? Its loveliness increases. It'll never fade into nothingness. But what? But it will give us peace and shelter and a beautiful place for us, right? It will give us sleep full of sweet dreams. It will give us good health. It will give us effortless breathing. Therefore, right, on every morning when we are encircled with ill will, there is a narrow band which unites us to the earth. And that narrow band is what? It is a thing of beauty. Okay. Then he talks about all the negativity. He talks about the disappointment. Okay. He talks about the lacking of human qualities, right? He talks about the gloomy, the sad days which we face, right? He talks about all those unhealthy and over-darkened ways, evil ways, right? And all this negativity is made by ourselves, is what the poet says. This is very true. We make it ourselves, right? Yes, in spite of all this negativity, there is a shape of beauty which washes away the covering of the evilness, right? It washes those evilness from our dark spirit. Okay. Now, he talks about the beauty of the nature. The beauty of the nature are the sun, the moon, trees old and young which are sprouting to become a shady blessing for the human beings, right? Furthermore, he talks about the daffodil flower, right, which grows in a forest. He talks about the transparent streams, the transparent reels, which would become a shed in the hot season. Then he talks about the red rose, the musk rose, which blooms in the thick forest, and it looks as if it is sprinkled very beautifully. Okay. Then, after all these things, he talks about the grandeur of the mighty dead, right? He talks about the lovely stories which we have heard. But then he says that, the thing of beauty is more lovelier than the stories which we have heard, right? The beauty of the nature is more mightier than the dead, the mighty dead which we have heard. Okay? And at the end, he says that this thing of beauty is what? It is an endless fountain. Okay, endless fountain of immortal drink which is pouring unto us from the heavens corner. It is a blessing to the human beings. All right. So that's it. I hope you have understood. So if you have not understood anything, you can contact me. Okay.